Thom Hartmann here with the best of the rest of labor and economic news. You need to know this. A little more than 50 years ago, over a quarter of workers in the United States belonged to some kind of union. Today, fewer than 12% of all workers belong to a labor group, and they're under attack by corporations and their lackeys in both state and federal governments. A half-century ago, union membership put power in the hands of employees and led to some of the highest wages and employee protections in our nation's history. However, 30 years of deregulation, outsourcing, and the overall Reaganomics war on workers has cut that percentage of unionized workers by more than half. Thankfully, today's labor groups aren't giving up without a fight. They're using some new tactics to demonstrate the importance of union membership, help other workers form unions, and plan ahead for the future. Recently, the Think Progress blog spoke to labor activists around the country about some of the new ways they're fighting for workers. Unions like the SEU 503 in Oregon are using so-called shop mobs to show up in huge crowds to support employee-owned businesses. Other groups, like two trade unions in New York State, are forming coalitions to pool resources and bring people together to fight. Painters and Allied Trades Union in St. Louis, Missouri, is getting in touch with the community and offering apprenticeship programs to local residents. And the IBEW is training younger members in how to be the next generation of union leaders. These groups are determined to ensure that workers of the future have the same rights and benefits that workers of the past fought hard to make possible. The anti-union lawmakers may have won a few battles, but labor groups won't give up until they declare victory in the war on workers. Since Congress can't agree to increase the minimum wage, perhaps we should let small businesses decide. The American Sustainable Business Council conducted a poll of businesses with fewer than 100 employees, and 61% of owners support higher pay for their workers. Out of the 555 business owners surveyed, the majority agree that the federal minimum wage should be raised to $10.10 an hour. In fact, the largest share of business owners surveyed were self-identified Republicans, and even they recognized that higher wages would increase consumer demand. More than half of these employers also agreed that higher pay would lower employee turnover, increase productivity, and improve customer satisfaction. Republicans will say that there's nothing stopping these companies from raising wages on their own, but that would put them at a disadvantage to their competitors. By raising the federal minimum wage, Congress could ensure that these small businesses are all on an equal footing and help lift millions of Americans out of poverty. It seems like everyone can see that raising wages is common sense, except the Republicans in Congress, who we need to help make it happen. A Bush-appointed federal judge in California has declared that the death penalty in that state is unconstitutional. Last week, Judge Cormac Carney ruled that the dysfunctional system used in California violates the Constitution's ban on cruel and unusual punishment. Judge Carney explained that California's system does not apply the law equally, and that a death sentence in that state is actually, quote, a sentence of life imprisonment with the remote possibility of death, end quote. He concluded by saying that allowing an individual to be killed by such an unpredictable system, quote, would offend the most fundamental of constitutional protections, that the government shall not be permitted to arbitrarily inflict the unjust punishment of death, end quote. Although this ruling didn't classify all capital punishment as cruel and unusual, it's another step toward putting an end to this barbaric practice in every state once and for all. Technically, it's not a crime to be poor in America, but it sure may feel like that for the homeless. According to a new study for the National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty, in more than half of the cities in the United States, it is illegal for someone to sit or lay down on a sidewalk. You don't have to be living on the street to know how and when such laws are enforced. Other cities use laws prohibiting camping or sleeping in public to keep homeless people off their streets. This new report studied nearly 200 cities and found an increase of anti-homeless laws since its last 2009 study. 3 decades of Reaganomics deregulation and NAFTA from Clinton, and 2 illegal wars and an economic collapse from Bush have all come together to form a perfect recipe to leave more and more Americans on the street. Rather than offering a hand up, lawmakers treat social programs like a handout, and they use laws like these to hide the end results of their policies. It shouldn't be a crime to find yourself without a roof overhead, and it's time these cities change these shameful laws. And finally, the state of Illinois is standing up for students. A pair of companies in that state targeted student loan borrowers in a scam promising help with college debt. Rather than providing any help with loans, the companies ripped students off for a couple $100 left them worse off financially than they were to begin with. So the state of Illinois has filed a lawsuit against these companies for fraud, and they may not be the first state to do so, the last state to do so. Excuse me. The Consumer Financial Protection Agency has issued warnings about these debt relief scams, and other states are looking into them. These companies often pretend to be affiliated with the government, and they trick indebted students into shelling out hundreds of dollars up front. One company made up a completely fake program called the Obama Forgiveness Program. And other companies just offered services that borrowers were entitled to for free from the federal government anyway. It's bad enough that students are stuck with mountains of debt, but it's even worse that for-profit companies would use it as an opportunity to make a buck. Illinois is putting a stop to it, and hopefully more states will do the same. And that's the way it is for the week of July 17th, 2014. I'm Thom Hartmann on the Economic and Labor News.